Welcome into episode 349 of the Sources Say podcast, your go-to Kentucky basketball and recruiting podcast on the growing KSR Podcast Network, presented by Club Blue. Club Blue is hosting a tailgate before the South Carolina game. For members, the men's basketball team and coaching staff will be there to interact and tailgate with Club Blue members. Tailgate is 1 to 3 p.m. Club Blue members will receive invitations via email or text to register. Space is limited, so while free, registration is first come, first serve until all spots are full. So members will need to keep an eye open for the invitation. Anyone who signs up to become a Club Blue member over the next few days will be eligible for an invite. Club Blue is the official collective partner of the University of Kentucky. Subscribe today at www.clubbluenil.com. Sean Smith joining me today with a brand new title sponsor, Club Blue. Appreciate all they do for us and all they do for UK athletic student athletes, but a new UK athletic student athlete joining the party today. Jasper Johnson, 5-star guard out of Lexington, is a Kentucky Wildcat. Sean, this is one that we have been talking about ad nauseum. I mean, every single show has had some type of Jasper update, the good, the bad, the ugly, the backs and forths. And we finally have closure. We finally have an answer where Jasper Johnson has made his decision, and it will be one that favors the Kentucky Wildcats.
Yeah, it's a pretty big deal, right? And a local kid going to be playing at the University of Kentucky. We took all these turns. We wondered how it was going to land and finish. Kentucky beats out Alabama. Kentucky beats out North Carolina. They get their guy, another in-state kid, Jack. And who would have thought here, Mark Pope is starting his recruiting kind of footprint by taking in-state kids, which was something for a long time that we wanted this program to do. A new era, homegrown talent. Pretty good start for what Mark Pope is doing.
So,
and I will say this, that Club Blue logo looks really good on the screen.
It's beautiful. It's beautiful. Everything Club Blue does is beautiful and immaculate, and we're so glad to have them be a part of this. And it's going to be a full-time sponsor. So we hope you guys love Club Blue because they're going to be around for the long haul, and we're very grateful for that. But the meaning behind this, as you said, it is the second in-state recruit that is now joining Kentucky's 2025 recruiting class, joining Malachi Moreno. You have the anchor in the front court with Malachi Moreno, 7 foot, 215-pound center, right out of your backyard in Georgetown. Quite the kind of anchoring piece for your front court. And then for you to now have the equivalent of that in the back court, a 5-star number 11 player in the class in the on-3 consensus, to have that being the anchor of your back court now is, still 2-3 months away from the early signing period. I mean, it's just, this is exactly what you wanted to kind of lay the foundation and say, okay, you got the layups, what fans wanted all along. You got those locked up months in advance. Now it's time to really dig in and start focus on what next with these official visitors coming in, September through October with Big Blue Madness and some of these other big time events. Now you can kind of push all of your chips in on the rest, knowing that you have your guys staying home.
Yeah, and you mentioned, that it's a layup, but this one kind of wasn't as much of a layup as maybe what some would have thought. But it's the two that you had to secure, right? Like those are the two that you had to get in. You couldn't lose them. And me and you have gone on to this talk about you're not fighting PR battles. You're not trying to win PR wars this early on, especially at Kentucky. But we also know that had this not gone Kentucky's favor, Jack, it would have been an all-out national attack in recruiting for these programs like the Alabamas, the North Carolinas, the Dukes. Everybody would have been like, well, Mark Pope's not going to be able to lure the same type of talent to Kentucky. You're avoiding that, which in a turn is you're actually getting 2 wins in this. Getting a really good player, homegrown kid that hopefully can grow in your program and be a big-time performer for you. But you're also avoiding any negative hit from this. You got a 5-star guy in this class, or you got a 5-man in this class that's at the top of his position. Now you got a guard in this class. That's a pretty good starting point. Now we got to get the middle of this, and then we'll see where Kentucky goes from there.
And that's a great point, because I don't want this to be limited to the layup that is perceived, because it was not a layup. Mark Pope and his staff had to work their asses off to get this done. And knowing where they came in, because I feel developing a strong relationship with people on Jasper's side, and just kind of knowing the why and kind of what motivates them throughout the process. It wasn't just NIL like it was kind of led to believe, but it wasn't, NIL was still a factor in it. It was kind of that happy medium of, we got to do what's fair, but it's not going to be the end all be all. So it didn't come down to, Kentucky having the highest bidder and Jasper signing with that program. That's not what this was. This was Kentucky going into a recruiting battle where Nate Oates and his staff was desperate. I don't care what Alabama fans will tell you. They were desperate from day one to land Jasper Johnson and have him be kind of the foundational piece of that recruiting class. They loved him. They were sending, in-depth highlight cut-ups 5 minutes after his EYBL games ended. They were obsessed with landing Jasper Johnson, and that was a relationship. Alabama was the first high major offer Jasper ever got. So you're coming into a battle where you are years behind. This wasn't just neck and neck with a couple months here and there. This was years of legwork that Alabama had put in because they wanted Jasper bad. He was a perfect fit for Nate Oates' modern day, 5-out run and gun offense. Like it was perfect. They wanted him desperately. North Carolina came in. They had the cool factor. They had the, hey, Jasper, you're a sneakerhead. You're not going to find more retros and the cool, Jordan brand stuff, this and that we are able to have. You can come and be the, cornerstone of this recruiting class and have it be cool, man. Like, we have a really cool brand that we know you want to be a part of. You grew up as a diehard, not a diehard, but grew up rooting for UNC and a household full of Kentucky fans. So they had a pretty significant leg up. And, Hubert Davis worked his butt off too to, call every single day and develop a really, really strong relationship with Jasper and that family. You were behind, firmly behind, just in terms of time and resources that these other two programs had poured into Jasper. The Kentucky of John Calipari was not what, Kentucky of Mark Pope is right now. So they came in and had to kind of chip. And Kentucky always felt that they were going to get there, but this could have gone another direction. He could have committed to Alabama today. He could have committed to North Carolina today. It could have gone that direction, but Mark Pope had to work, and his staff, the entire staff, had to work their butts off to be able to solidify this commitment. So ignore any noise that you see about, oh, well, it's just a Lexington kid. He should be landing those kids. Mark Pope had to recruit him like he was a 5-star recruit, top 15 player in the country, not a Lexington native whose dad played at the University of Kentucky.
Yeah, you mentioned it. We've talked a ton about relationships and how those other programs kind of had a leg up on Kentucky in building those relationships, not just for months, but a few years now in Jasper's recruitment. This wasn't a kid that was on Mark Pope's radar when he was at BYU. So now you come in, this whole staff comes in. One, you got to build a relationship. Two, you have to evaluate if this kid fits how you play. So there was a lot of things that went into it. Kentucky deems that he does fit. Talented kid from the state of Kentucky here. And they got the job done, Jack. And on top of this, what this staff, and there's been a lot of talk about it because there was so many unknowns, but what this staff has done, it's pieced together a roster for this season, and now it's got its kind of blueprint and groundwork to lay the foundation to continue moving the program forward, because we know this. You're going to have transfer portal pieces, but you need to secure high school level talent, especially when it's from right down the road in the same area code. It's not all the time. How long have we been talking about this state, and it's been talked about not producing elite level talent, not just in high school basketball, but in high school football? But this state's getting better on the basketball side of things. Yes, Jasper's playing at OTE. Malachi decided to stay home. They're still Kentucky kids. And when you have that level of talent right down the road, you got to secure that regardless of what it's going to mean immediate impact in your program. Like, I love the addition of Malachi Moran to this class because of what he can be long term. I like this one too especially if you get some veteran presence to go with him in the backcourt. If you can blend it, Jack, Kentucky's got a really good start to what next year's roster can be just from its high school pool of talent.
So let's talk a little bit about Jasper's game and what Kentucky is physically getting, because yes, we know the accolades, we know the who, what, when, where, and why, with him being from Lexington, who his family is, dad playing at Kentucky, uncle playing at Kentucky, grandpa being an administrator, at Kentucky, mom coming from the Yeast family. Like, we know the ties, we know what it means from that perspective, but I feel like the two of us together have seen quite a bit of Jasper and have a pretty good feel for what he does really well, what he struggles with, and how he projects at the next level. So, Sean, you kind of put on your coaching hat a little bit, like we did after Malachi committed. Just what is Jasper as a player, and how does he fit with what Mark Pope is trying to do year one, year two, and moving forward at Kentucky?
And a lot of that's probably going to come down to who's around him, right? Like, is this going to be a transition to where you want the ball primarily in his hands? Do you want him playing a role off the ball? To me, there's going to be a balance. You're going to be able to find a balance with him. Maybe he runs some one, maybe he runs some two. Going to make some shots, shot selection and things. It's going to have to be a natural transition to college basketball. Some of the shots that he's taken in high school, some of the shots that he's taken in AAU, you're not going to take those similar shots. You're maybe take a few of them, but you don't take as many. I think, Jack, that he's got potential as an off-ball guard to really mix and match and do some things there. Attack off the dribble. We know he's super fast. He's got bounce to his game. Can get after it, run the floor in transition. A lot of how he fits, though, I think is going to be along like who he plays alongside. Does Kentucky go get a veteran lead guard next year to kind of take some pressure off at that spot, and he slides and plays next to him? The one thing that I don't want is I don't want the backcourt to be Jasper Johnson's backcourt to start his time at Kentucky. I think to reach his ceiling, alleviate some of that pressure and not put as much on his shoulders. And I don't think that's going to happen. I think Kentucky's going to end up getting some experience to go with him. Plus, we don't know what's going to come back from this current roster. We've talked a ton about Otega Oweh and having multiple years at Kentucky. We know they're going to be active in the transfer portal in the spring, but when it comes to his game, Jack, I think it's going to be a transition because he can make shots, he can play in space. You put some guys around him, and I think he's played with a lot of top talent in AAU. Like, this is a guy that's no stranger to playing with really good players. It should be a smooth transition to what Mark Pope and Kentucky want to do. But how quickly does it happen? And I think it happens a lot quicker for him if there's a veteran presence beside him. It's just still too early to tell, but his game will fit what Mark Pope's system is.
So, talking to some people around the program, throughout the recruiting process, and get your thought on this as well. They kind of compare him to a Jackson Robinson, and like when you ask about the role, and you say, okay, so how does this impact their pursuit of Braylon Mullins? How does this, impact their pursuit of a Caden Lewis and some of the, do you go get a true one in a Caden Lewis or Mikel Brown or, some of the more truer ones, or is he enough of an on-ball threat that you can put him next to a Braylon Mullins or some of these other guys that they like at the two and just kind of have them play complementary basketball to one another? And their response back was that, they kind of see him as a Jackson Robinson, where they say, he can do everything. Like, there are times that he's going to be, coming off screens, I go back into our film room. He's going to be the guy that's going to be the catcher and shooter and he's going to hit a lot of them, but he's also going to initiate. There are going to be times that he's going to be put in, smaller ISO situations and say, go get us a bucket. Like, he's going to be that guy. So use Jackson is kind of a model for usage, maybe not production and, efficiency and some of those things. Jasper is going to be his own player, but kind of the vision in terms of role and usage, they see Jasper as a guy who can step in and be kind of a Jackson Robinson type of player for Mark Pope. And we know what Pope believes about Jackson Robinson. We know that the chemistry is there and how confident they are in him as a pro level prospect. So for them to throw that comparison around with Jasper Johnson, that means something to me, I think.
It does, and I think it also means that they expect him to be a good teammate because we know that Jackson's role at BYU wasn't a starting role. He played starter minutes, but he did it coming off the bench. So that's high praise, not just on the floor with what it comes to a comparison, but I think also when it comes to the type of maybe the teammate he is and stuff. And you're going to have to be a good teammate to play in the system because I don't know. The one thing I'll say about Mark Pope's system at Kentucky, and it especially was true at BYU, you had your key guys that made it go, but that didn't mean that they necessarily got the shot on every possession. It kind of was a flowing thing. That's what made it so beautiful to watch. Now at Kentucky, you're going to have the same similar concepts, but this is a guy, Jack, that's going to be able to hit transition threes. He's going to be able to be a guard that's going to pitch it ahead to other guys, sprint to those corners, attack the rim and put some pressure there. We know that he'll go in and dunk on you. He's crafty. He can do some things super quick. What's he going to be like as a defender at this level? Getting stronger, those areas to his game. But here's the one advantage to being able to commit and be in the fold now. You're going to get to watch this system unfold from the early stages of it. You're going to get to see it kind of evolve and whatever this system at Kentucky becomes, whatever Mark Pope has in mind right now, it will probably be tweaked just a little bit by the time Jasper gets on campus. They're going to find some things that they can do at Kentucky that they probably couldn't do at BYU, Jack, that work. They're probably going to have some things that maybe doesn't work as well that they want to throw to the side. Jasper's going to get to kind of change his game and kind of mirror it to whatever fits this system at Kentucky. And I think that's a nice thing to kind of go into is kind of the first batch of high school talent coming in to a new program or what is a new Kentucky basketball program when it comes to what they look like on the floor.
Yeah. 6'4", 170 pounds. How much? So you don't want to make him bulky. You don't want to, add so much muscle that it takes away some of the things that kind of separate his game with kind of the, not to throw shiftiness around. I know that's kind of just the go-to cliche now that we've gone through the Reed Rob Dillingham experience. So, but he's a guy that clearly needs to be able to handle the bumps and bruises of the SEC. Rob Dillingham did the exact same thing. He came in at $155. And we saw in Toronto that he got beat up pretty good against grown men. It just wasn't something he was able to handle. What does that look like for Jasper? What do you think at 6'4", from 6'5", long wingspan, nice physical tools? What do you think that kind of tops out at? Do you want him to go a little heavier to be able to handle the bumps and bruises? Or, we also, Rob Dillingham didn't get bulky. He still was pretty thin, but still managed to kind of fight through screens, deal with the physicality that comes with the SEC. Where would you like Jasper to kind of finish out at?
And that's a good point about Rob because he added weight, but it wasn't so much that he's not a bodybuilder, you know what I mean? But like his body certainly changed. You could probably see the same transformation for Jasper at Kentucky. And similar, like you're not wanting to pack on a lot of weight, but you want to make him stronger. What are those areas of his body that he needs to be the strongest at? Is it lower body? Is it his core? All those things when he gets in this program and starts working out. And then, Jack, that's another thing, too, that I'm sure Kentucky probably wants to get a jump start on with him being at OTE and having the time to kind of work on his body there as well, which I think is very important. So whatever the blueprint is for what they think Jasper needs to be from the moment he arrives on campus, let's say next June, Kentucky's going to try to get a leg up and a jump start on getting him prepped and ready for that day. So then they pick up wherever it's left off. And we know when these guys get in this program and they get in that weight room now, it's going to be the same way under this coaching staff. Bodies are going to change significantly in June and July. We see it every single year when the pictures come out, how quickly when they get into a nutrition plan and they live right beside the weight room and they're around the clock getting instruction on what they're supposed to do. I have no concerns. Maybe it's a 7, 8, 10 pounds weight that's added on to him. You don't lose any explosiveness there, but you get him stronger overall and balance it out across his body. he's got a frame that I think can be very solid at the collegiate level and can really handle a few extra pounds.
And I think that's going to really play into his defensive upside as well. Like I think he's known for being flashy. He's known for having being the dynamic shot maker that he'll have the spin turnaround jump shot from behind the basket in the corner where he'll make a shot and you go, how did he even see the rim, let alone put a ball through it? So he has those things. That's what he's known for. But I also think that the tools are there for him to be a high level defender. I think he has a nose for the basketball. I think he kind of has the twitchiness that it takes to be an elite on ball defender. I think it comes down to engagement. I think it comes down to a want to that he's going to have to just learn over time. But he has shown flashes, I think, that really make you go, man, when it clicks for him, it's not just going to be the shot making that we really go, drool over with Jasper. I think it's going to be a lot of the on ball stuff and, kind of playing those passing lanes and being really effective there. I think he can be a really, really high level defender as well, Sean.
That's the thing that I was going to say about him defensively, that I could see him being a good on-ball defender as quick as he is, moving side to side laterally, getting in passing lanes, turn defense into offense, use that speed to get out and run and get Kentucky in transition. That's what I think he could become as a defender for sure, and maybe a scrappy player on that end of the floor. That if he does that, Jack, then he adds value to what he can be right away, and he adds value to what he can be long term. Hopefully, to make that next jump to professional basketball. Like we know you got to do it on both ends of the floor. I think Jasper's obviously going to have some struggles and things of a natural freshman entering college basketball at a high level program, but I think the areas of his game that are here are going to carry him through those struggles, give him opportunities to get better and better in his time at Kentucky. That's where it comes down to me to who is around him. And I think that's the next most important thing about what they do is who goes around these two guys, not just in the freshman class, and we don't know this yet. We don't know who's going to be retained and brought back. Who do they target in the portal, let's say 7-8 months from now? That's going to be another thing. But you alleviate a lot of that pressure because you go get a guy like Jasper now. You go get a Malachi Moreno. You've got pieces, and you've got pieces in your program that you already think, hey, there's 2 or 3 guys here that could be back that add some veteran presence to these 2 young guys coming in. It just takes so much off of you when you look up and see, okay, maybe I need to add 2 guys to what we're going to do. We'll see what they add the rest of the way in high school. But Jasper's game is going to be fine at Kentucky. I think he fits the system, playing in space. I just want to see what he looks like next spring, what he does at OTE, and let's kind of evaluate and see where he's at and what he needs to work on, because I think there's a lot of upside to his game if he's patient with it.
And kind of want to share a couple stories and just kind of get to like how we got here, kind of dig in a little bit more into the thought process and what it took to land him and just kind of the thinking along the way when Pope was hired. So just be transparent, some of the early conversations I had with Dennis and some people around Jasper, I've known him for a couple years now and have kind of watched Jasper grow into the top 15 5-star that he's become. But, when Pope took the job, there was some real uncertainty. It was, they were big Bruce Pearl guys. They liked, some of these other coaches. Obviously, they would have loved for Dan Hurley to get the job, and they loved Scott Drew. They had some prior relationships there. And so when Mark Pope got the job initially, they were like, man, I just don't know if that's going to be a fit. Like, I just don't know if I'll be able to, trust our child with an experiment. I mean, he's going to go and be an experiment that, Mark Pope's never put a guy in the NBA and he's never won a single postseason game as a head coach. How can we trust that to let him live out his dreams? So that was the hurdle that Mark Pope had to overcome. And so knowing Kentucky's side, they were throwing like, you're right, we don't have NBA success. We don't have guys that we've put in the NBA, but guess what we do have? Me, I have played in the NBA. Jason Hart was a vet and played with Tim Duncan and, grew up with Kobe Bryant, like all the connections that you could possibly need in the pros to know what that looks like. So they had to overcome some things. And you have Alvin Brooks III, who, coached at Baylor and coached pro after pro after pro. That guy's put guys in the NBA. So, G League Ignite with Jason Hart, he's directly put guys in the pros and knows how to recruit those guys and, sign them and develop them into NBA talent. So they had to come in at a different angle that Alabama was throwing and saying, hey, well, you're not going to be an experiment for us, bud. Like, you can see the NBA guys that we've put in, that Nate Oates, have put in, and you can see our system. We have a tangible product. You're going to be a guessing game. You're going to be a total crapshoot at Kentucky. Do you really want to trust? So they were kind of working against Kentucky and trying to pull and kind of throw that uneasiness on Jasper and his family. So that was something that they had to overcome very, very early. So what made it really cool was when Jasper got on campus and they took him, behind the scenes and the unofficials and saw practice, and he got to see practice with his own two eyes. The film that they watched was just so meticulous in Jasper focus and saying, hey, I know we don't have the product right now for you, but here's what we run, here's how we run it, and here's you in our system. And that was kind of the eye opener for Jasper's side to go, maybe there is a better fit than I thought. So that night after their unofficial visit, Dennis told me that Jasper, he went up to Jasper's room and Jasper was sitting there watching BYU tape by himself. That it was the first time that it really kind of clicked with him, like, maybe this is a real thing. Maybe I can open the door and, keep that door open for Kentucky. I always liked Kentucky and, could have played here for John Calipari, but maybe an avenue for playing for Mark Pope is there. And then what really kind of put Kentucky back into the conversation of, all right, let's ball, was Mark Pope flying out to Argentina and driving a stick shift rental car and being there, the only head coach there for the FIBA USA. Mark Pope was the only head coach there, and they noticed that really went a long way with Jasper and Jasper's family, because they said, okay, we know how important we are to Mark. Like, we know that it would be really big for Pope to land us in year one, but we're not going to hand it to him. It's not going to be just because this is a 5-star. This isn't just some top 75 kid committing to Kentucky. He could go anywhere and play and be really good and become a lottery pick. He's got to earn it. And that went a really long way of showing that, okay, we're not messing around. Let's make this happen. When it got into the kind of the back and forth with, and a lot of the late stuff that we heard in the back and forth with, the money and the talk with the agents and things like that, that's just negotiating. That's just, you kind of have to understand the game and the politics that kind of go into it, and knowing that what if one person is being told one thing, the other two, it's to drive up a price for the other two. And it's the agent's job to make Jasper as much money as possible, so it puts the most money in his pocket. Like, I mean, that's just life, and you got to just kind of have to know the game and be able to kind of sift through what's real and what's not to get to the final destination. And it did take some local donors and boosters to say, you know what, yes, we could get a kid for, a little bit cheaper that isn't a 5-star, kid from Lexington, but it's a 5-star kid from Lexington. We got to keep this kid home. So they did kind of have to do one last little kind of kick in the pants to seal the deal, if you will. But Kentucky has been grinding and chipping away at this for a really, really long time, and kind of seeing the start to finish with this and going, he wasn't going to play for Mark Pope when he was first hired, to now he is signed, committed, and going to be a part of this. It's just a really cool closing for Pope and his staff to be able to finish a job on this, because there was a time that was not going to be the case. The importance of that, just being, talking a little bit more about the financial aspect of this. And we talked about it a couple shows ago when it was viewed as a bidding war, and it kind of became this, like, at what point is is it time to just kind of say, the offer that we have on the table is enough, and you either want to be a part of this or you don't. We're not gonna nickel and dime you, and we're not gonna be nickel and dimed to close on this. We know that watching the Reed Shepherd experiment, we just watched Reed catch lightning in a bottle and become the number 3 draft pick and sign a $45 million rookie contract. If it goes right for you, and you should feel confident that it's going to go right for you at Kentucky, Jasper, like, you're a talented kid and there's a lot to love. And you should be confident that you can be the next Reed Shepherd. We just watched what happened when, Reed made really solid NIL money while he was here. But that's not, the end all be all. Like, that's not how it works for, a kid of his caliber deciding that, $100,000 here or there is going to make the difference between, whether he makes ends meet or not. So that was kind of something that they had to deal with and say, like, okay, we got to draw a line in the sand somewhere and say, this is fair. We're confident in this. And it, that turned off some people, and it did kind of get to the point where it was like, okay, well, if they're not going to play ball, then maybe this is going to be an Alabama or North Carolina battle. And they had competitive offers out there, and they had to work. There were a lot of intricacies about this that they had to get to and get through to kind of get to this point. And it did take some last second hardball played by some local people of substance that wanted to keep a local kid home. So it's a really big get. It's a really, really massive get for Mark Pope and his staff to be able to kind of overcome what they did and seal the deal and make this happen. And I think we got Sean back. He got kicked, I think. What happened there?
I have no idea what happened. I don't know if
you got laggy. You got really laggy, and then you just disappeared.
Yeah, I thought it was going to come back, but it didn't come back. But I'm here.
But I was talking. But I was just talking about, what Pope had to overcome and some of the, financial back and forth, because that became the story there at the very end. It became what everybody talked about. And people made it out to be like Jasper was drama, that it was dramatic and Dennis and mom and, so the people closest to Jasper were all drama with it. And that's just not the case. It's just not reality. They wanted what was fair for their son and Jasper himself, and they left it on his agent to negotiate the best deal and for his client. That was his job, and he did his job well. So it wasn't as dramatic as I think the general public thought it was. I always thought Kentucky was closer to being in kind of closing position and being able to kind of seal the deal and land them than not. They always kind of had a very quiet confidence that they would be able to kind of make it happen and come in and seal the deal when it mattered. They didn't care about it's Alabama or UNC, it's Kentucky. They always, in those moments, they kind of said, I flat out heard Alabama is not leading for Jasper Johnson. That was kind of one of the first, everybody else kind of seems to believe that. They always kind of felt that they would be in closing position when the right time came. And go figure, a week before his decision was when everybody, kind of started talking about the tides turning and all that. So they kind of comfortably knew that they would get there eventually. And they had some local help kind of help seal the deal down the stretch to help make it happen.
They did. And you mentioned the agent and you're trying to get as much money as possible, right? For your guy. Like, if I have an agent, I hope they're trying to earn me a couple of extra dollars here. Maybe it's $100,000, whatever it is. And I'm definitely not going to complain about it. It's all a business. This happens in every single recruitment of a high major player. It's essentially a bidding war. You take, okay, this school is giving me this. And then, Jack, maybe sometimes you settle for a price because you really want to go to that school. And this is a place that Jasper wanted to be. The money fit what they wanted it to be. The playing style fits, and Kentucky had to do whatever it could, right? Like, this is one that Let's say that nobody steps up to the plate to get this done. Then guess what happens? Kentucky didn't get the job done because they didn't throw enough money when they actually had it. People stepped up, gets it done. That bodes well moving forward in recruiting. This was one early, regardless of what Jasper becomes on the floor at Kentucky, not getting the hit of not being able to get the in-state kid that's a five-star talent to this program. You're avoiding that, and that's a win in itself. So you're getting two victories here. You're getting a really good player with high end potential, and you're avoiding them going somewhere else and it being a negative hit in recruiting to you. Mark Pope has to establish some type of blueprint for what this is. This is the start of it. North Carolina and Alabama were hopeful. And not just those two, but the other schools that aren't even recruiting Jasper were hopeful. Man, I hope the local kid doesn't go to Kentucky, because then maybe they take a little bit of a national hit when it comes to their reputation on the recruiting trail. It's avoided. That's the biggest win of this. And now you get a good player.
And just being transparent, like I think Alabama saw it as a win-win for them, where they viewed it and said, we're either going to get a really good player and steal him away from Kentucky in their own backyard to start the Mark Pope era and really kind of put it to him a little bit, or we're going to drive up the NIL cost and make Kentucky overpay for a kid that they should be able to get at a hometown discount. We'll be able to use those funds to go get a kid that, shoot for the stars wherever we want from there, without having Kentucky battling me for that guy. So there was some of those dynamics at play at well. And I think North Carolina, to a lesser extent, they were more kind of cut and dry with their recruitment. And I kind of under the belief that they actually pulled out a lot earlier than I think people kind of knew on the surface. I think it didn't kind of end up just being a back and forth between Kentucky and Alabama. But that's where the Kentucky's not going to just be a pushover and just say, whatever it costs, we're going to do whatever it takes to land him, because then you're going to get beat. You have to set a precedent. You have to set a baseline of, once we draw a line in the sand, that's it. We love you. We want you to be a part of this. We think you're going to be an excellent player here. But, at some point, again, we just saw what happened with Reed Sheppard. When it goes right, it goes really right. We don't need to explain ourselves. So there was kind of the juggling in it. That's a big risk. I mean, there could have been a path for him to go, okay, if you're not going to give me what I deserve or meet me in the middle here, then I'm going to go play for Alabama, your SEC rival, and now you're going to have to stop me twice a year, potentially 3 in the SEC tournament, maybe 4 in the NCAA tournament. That kind of weighing in the back of your mind. So, it was a risk, and it was just one that Mark Pope and his staff won. And you just can't say enough about their ability to be able to do that, and just excellent way that this wrapped up. So let's wrap up our show by getting out of here by talking about just what is next. What is what do the next couple of months look like for Kentucky, and how they go about recruiting and fitting the pieces alongside Jasper. So it's my understanding that 4 guys is ideal for their high school class, that they know that they're going to get the guys with eligibility back. They would love to get Otega Owe, Brandon Garrison, Travis Perry, Trent Noah, and Colin Chandler back as their kind of five-man group. Add in 4 high school guys, and then finish out the rest with, a nice little mix of senior leadership out of the portal, but also some guys like Otega and Brandon Garrison, where, they have years of eligibility remaining, where you could retain them and kind of think ahead to the future, where they're kind of like signing a 5-star recruit. You're going to have them for a couple years. So if the right situation opens up, they're happy to take 5. If Caleb Wilson calls you in the spring and says, hey, let's make this happen and we want to be a part of it, they ain't going to turn him down. So that's kind of the process that they're juggling now. They're going to continue to pursue Braylon Mullins. They're going to continue to pursue Tunde Yesufu. They're going to continue to pursue the guys that are immediate targets that are going to commit in this fall signing period, and then just kind of see what happens from there before going into the spring. I believe Kentucky will end the early signing period with 4 commitments, and then I think they'll go into the spring and swing for the fences and see if they can land one of those top 10 5-stars. We'll just see what happens there. How would you like Mark Pope to kind of take these next steps as the official visits rack up and we start getting some clarity on some of their other top targets?
Well, Braylon Mullins is where I'd like to start, honestly. Like I think that he's going to outperform where he's ranked in this class and eventually probably be one of the better players at the top half of this thing. And we're talking about a class that's loaded, Jack, of guys. But I think getting to 4 high school players, retaining 3 or 4, and then you kind of target maybe 2 to 3 tops in the transfer portal in spring. That to me would be the ideal mix that you're looking for and blend to what next year's roster could be. That's just the number I would throw. If you can go 4, 4, 3, maybe even 4, 4, and 4. I don't know. But like to me, getting to 4 in high school, possibly 5, have some retention, and then those spring additions, you could key in on possibly the best at multiple positions. Go get an elite end point guard in the transfer portal. So we'll see what happens, but this is a good start.
And that's that's going to be the prime time. We've already seen a year under Mark Pope. Like that is the time to go after a top 10 kid because they will see what the product looks like. There won't be any of the experiment guesswork stuff that we kind of dealt with Jasper for a little bit. They'll be able to see with their own 2 eyes, hey, this is what Mark Pope does well. This is what he struggles with. Ideally more pros than cons. Let's come be a part of this. That's when you want to go attack a top 10 kid. That's when you want to go get a Caleb Wilson and say, hey, this system, look at Andrew Carr. I mean, you're a versatile 4 that can kind of put it on the ground and, play inside out. Andrew Carr is playing the best basketball of his career by doing something almost identical. You're a better version of that. Come be a part of this and be a lottery pick while you do it. So that's the kind of the angle that Kentucky's going to be working with, and I feel really good about it. So unbelievable day. Mark Pope adds his first 5-star as the head coach of the University of Kentucky, and it's a big one. Jasper Johnson is a Kentucky Wildcat. Sean, right before we get out of here, Club Blue is the official collective partner of the University of Kentucky. Club Blue was founded by the UK fans strictly to support the NIL efforts at the University of Kentucky. Unlike most collectives, 100% of subscriber money and 100% of donor money goes directly to NIL. Club Blue charges no fees. Club Blue subscribers receive some amazing benefits like invitations to special events, meet and greets with UK athletes, signed merchandise, monthly giveaways, ticket giveaways, Club Blue merch, and more. Subscribe today at www.clubbluenil.com. You get to pick which sport you want to support when you sign up. Choose your sport and support with Club Blue. Sean, this has been a blast, man. Congrats to Jasper Johnson. Let's get you out of here. Where can fans find your work?
You can follow me at _Coach S. Smith.
Find me on Twitter as well, at Jack Pilgrim KSR. Go subscribe to KSR Plus. Make sure you're subscribed right here on the KSR YouTube channel. We'll see you next time.